Alright, Matthew, welcome to episode 44 of the Performance Advantage podcast. This week we're taking a look back at a year in podcasting. I'm also going to run through my Tarawera Ultra 100k race. Matt's going to give a bit of an update about what he's been up to. And this week in sports that we talk about, we've got e-bikes and shoes. It's going to be a good episode. Let's get into it. Alright, Matt, what have you been up to?
Yeah, sorry for disappearing for a bit. We did that alcohol episode, and then that was at the start of the year. And then it was just like going back and forth, going to these different races, and then I went on holiday right after that. And when I went on holiday, this wasn't like my Christmas holiday where I just didn't do as much work for one day. This was like 100% disconnected, like for a week.
Yeah, I didn't even see you on Instagram stories. No, I was like, no. I hope he's alright.
Well, so we went on a cruise. What I did is I went to New Orleans, met up with my family, and we did a cruise to Mexico. So I've never been to either of those places. And on a cruise, there's no point in paying for the internet because it's so slow. And it's a really good chance to not be able to be connected. So I didn't even carry my phone with me.
Whoa.
It was crazy. So no phone in my pocket, no access to the internet for like the first time since Al Gore invented the internet in like 1970. And I was just loving it, just fully disconnected. It felt like a real holiday. But before that, we were away at National Champs. So I took the boys down. We did, I rode with them.
Cross country?
Yeah, cross country and downhill.
Cross country and mountain bike, yeah.
I had one downhiller racing and 3 XC racers. So that was pretty cool. And the scheduling was a bit wonky because the riders did national championships. What was it? No, it was Oceania championships on the Friday, and then they raced national championships on the Sunday. So it was all on the same track, pretty much the same climb. But just a different crew because the Aussies weren't there on the Sunday. But yeah, it was great to see like the New Zealand scene for mountain biking. It's not massive because we're not like a massive country, but like everyone is so fast. Like it's really cool to see, especially in the younger categories, like the under 17. Like there are so many kids that are just really fast. And it's awesome when everyone comes together for the big races and like everyone's in their best shape and looking to perform, really pushing themselves. And for me, I just spectated and supported in the feed zones. It was really awesome to just see all that, see the scene. And then the downhill I can't imagine a country with a downhill scene as strong as New Zealand. It's pretty deep. Like there are a ton of guys and girls that are just like at that tippy top and willing to take massive risks for these races. So yeah, it was a great couple weeks, like going to the races and then disconnecting, and now we're back.
We're back. Yeah, 1 year in. Yeah, because I've been involved in junior triathlon as well, and we have the world class junior, and we've in triathlon and running most sports, we have world class juniors, and able to develop athletes. But like we talked about, and when we interviewed one of your guys, Caleb, who races world champs, it's the difficulty of then being in a country of 4.5 million people on the very first time zone of the world to then go and race somewhere, and just to spend enough money and our dollars week as well. Like, so you got to spend enough just to, like, how much did it cost you all up to go to Dunedin for like those 5 days week or whatever?
Yeah, well, it wasn't cheap, and that's domestic racing. So you think about going overseas.
I know, that's what I like.
Yeah.
And it's not, you can describe the US, you drive, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, luckily flights are pretty cheap. in New Zealand domestically, but still, like, that's just domestic racing. And since the scene isn't massive, you're kind of racing the same people week in and week out. So then it's actually a little bit, the racing becomes a different game when you go overseas too. Plus there's a huge added cost. So, but yeah, I think it does a bit of a disservice to the New Zealand athletes because they are all so good. They are so good. And it's just that the next jump there's a lot of barriers to performing at the world stage, financially, and then it's just a little bit different racing.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll actually just reference that a little bit in my update about my race.
Well, should we just get into the update on your race?
Oh, love it. Would love to.
I gotta say, I was following live updates. So I had gotten back to internet connection and they had an app for the race. I was like, oh, let's see how Will's doing. I logged in to the app, typed in your name, found you, and it said you started. I was like, oh, sweet, I'll check in like 10 hours because you'll still be racing. And I actually checked in a few times and nothing was updating for you. I was like,
I know.
Okay, so I looked at results. It's like, oh, it didn't say your name anywhere. Like, what the heck is going on? I messaged our friend Sam Shaw, and I was like, have you seen Will? He's like, yeah, I'm looking for him. I was like, oh, Will must have just quit. And it wasn't until I caught up with you later that it turns out you actually had a pretty good race.
Yeah, it was like really unfortunate that like my timing just like started and then stopped. My wife was like, she was like, oh man, I was so stressed. I was sure you pulled out. And there's a couple of reasons for that as well. I got that feedback a lot, like after I finished. Because, so we start like, it was crazy. The craziest start to an ultra I have ever experienced. It was like a cross country mountain bike race. We take off. So this is the biggest race I've done, 500, maybe like 550 runners for 100k.
What? Everyone's 500 people starting at the same time?
Yes.
It's a lot.
It is.
Did anyone step on your shoe and give you a flat tire? That would suck.
Put their foot through my spokes. Yeah. Generally, like, that's mass starts a standard for running events. Generally it's like self-seeding, so it pretty quickly splits out where you have, fast, whatever, self-seeding. People know where they need to stand. And it was quite a wide start. That was good. But we take off and then I just cruise out because it's 100Ks and everyone's running past me. And I thought, okay, I obviously started a bit too slow. This is only in the first few hundred meters, and then so speed up a bit, and then we get through this like very short single track section, and I can see I'm like maybe like 20th at that stage, and I was like, oh wow, okay, I knew it was a competitive field. I didn't realize it was this competitive. Then we get onto the golf course, and we have maybe like a kilometer or two of like along the golf course to get across to like the main track start, and man, everyone just kept running past me. I checked my watch, I'm running 4-minute Ks, well below what I was like wanting to. I was like, okay, I'm definitely running fast enough. And I see these people running by me like I would normally beat you. Like, like looking at them like you can't, like surely you can't be running, like you're not going to run faster than me. That's what I'm thinking in my head. But I'm also thinking, shit, like I can't, like I should run with them. Like I don't,
this is when you put a podcast on in your headphones during the race and you listen to the pacing episode, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But I had my plan, I had my heart rate. I said, no, I'm going over. It was it just rained and we haven't had rain in like a month. So humid and I struggle. My heart rate kept jumping up every little rise. So slow down. And, I'd worked on that a lot with, the mental skills coach I have, Jay. And, to not get that gratification, like instant gratification of like, I'm doing well. Look, I'm beating this person, as opposed to the complete opposite where I'm like, this, slightly overweight middle-aged man's running past me. I'm clearly not doing very well. But I stuck to my guns. And it was nuts. I just could not, I was maybe like 50th at that stage. And then by the first checkpoint, I think I was 30 something, maybe close to 40. So then people see that and then they don't see my next split and they're like, well, okay. It hasn't gone well. He's pulled out.
He went right to the chocolate store.
So yeah, but, and that was a battle. Like it was, I know and too many times I've burnt myself out in hot, humid conditions. And how I found it anyway. And so I just really had to stick to my plan, keep slowing down. I had to walk a little bit. And that was hard because I was going slower than my slowest splits that I predicted, and so then you're like, oh man, now, I'm coming 40th, bloody running way slower, start a YouTube channel, I'm going to look like an idiot. Loads of things going on, but work through my mental processes, stay positive. And then we get through 40Ks and it's like, oh, hang on. Oh, there's someone just there. Oh, there's someone just there. And then I start catching people and then the cloud cover comes over. I'm feeling a lot better. Boom. I'm like, just start catching people, get through 60Ks. Then it's the section that I've trained on all the time. Fastest split, even in training, faster than that. At 60Ks to 80Ks, I had my fastest split, 7th fastest overall. Just absolutely I'm like, oh man, past 6 people in that section.
Sheesh.
So now I'm up into like, I must have been up into 15th then, So like I've gone from thinking I'm out of the game to like well into the race. And just, well ahead of my splits now. And feeling great, feeling the best I ever have in 100. And just pushing it, and then managed to catch one more guy, coming back from the Blue Lake. Again, faster than I was doing in training. And I was able to close out with a couple like 4-minute 30Ks along the flats and able to pick James up just at the finish, cross the line with my son, just over 10 hours,
Timothy.
14th place. So it was a testament to sticking to your plan, and my training and like it just like, if you can complete a successful 100 kilometer, it doesn't really matter what happens, like you should be really happy because just the training alone to run that far is hugely demanding.
Yeah. We talked about this before where we said like, it almost doesn't matter where you come in the results if you follow the process and you tick off the goals that you had set out before the event, that could be following the process or something like that, which for you, that's what you did. And you walked away pretty happy. It's so satisfying to like do all of your processes. And I looked at the results, like Tom Evans from last podcast, he beat me by 2 hours, set a new course record. And he won by like 40 minutes, and that, I wanted to be, I was 10:09 and I wanted to be mid 9 hours, closer to 9 on my best ever sort of possibility within the top 10. And I wasn't either of those things, but I also didn't care, I kind of care, like a little bit, like it would have been nice because I think I was capable of more. But on those conditions, I passed the 100-mile world record holder, at 80 kilometers. He was not walking, but he was struggling. There's plenty of people in that field that I could have ended up like, who finished, like I said, I was 40th and I finished 14th. So there's plenty of people that did not have a good race either. Well, not either, but and I know I could have been one of those people say, yeah, that's awesome. Cool. What's next? Not sure. Gonna chill out. Yeah. I was actually gonna ask you that. You didn't have to ask yourself. But
No, because I knew you were because it's what everyone's already asked me.
Yeah.
What's next? What's next?
It's like when you finish your PhD and everyone's like, oh, what now? I don't know. I haven't really thought about that. I was pretty focused for a long time. So now you'll just have but after an event, and I always, tell my athletes this, like after your important event, it's really, really important to take some downtime and not think about your next event.
That was what, Jay, the mental skills coach, had said as well. He's like, take time to celebrate.
Yeah.
You don't, and he's right. The amount, like every single thing, like all of my 5K track race, Tussock Traverse, half marathon, like everything was doing to tick off this race and execute it. All of my like not eating sugar.
Yeah, you skipped chocolate for this. Like you need to have chocolate and enjoy it. And then think about the next one later.
Enjoying spending lots of time with my son James and supporting Emma with her new mountain bike.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah, so lots of James and Dad time. But yeah, that was it. And I also got to it was such a cool event. Awesome. I highly recommend people coming along. Like I coached a bunch of people for the 100-mile race, and then so I did my race, went back, had to chill out, then went back out to support them because they were finishing from midnight to 4 a.m. and it's just a party. So it was cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Yeah. But that's it, Matt. That's it for more, I'm going to do an analysis video and also just a recap video with heaps of footage that I shot with Robbie, my videographer, who was out there catching shots. So keep an eye on my YouTube channel, Dr. Will O'Connor. Poor Matt. This week in sports that we talk about aiding performance. Is that what you'd call it? Making things easier? Nike's new shoes, carbon plates, and Santa Cruz e-bikes.
I'd just say making sports more fun, but there are definitely a lot of haters out there of new technology. Because I guess we wanted to focus on two things. And the one thing that I brought up when we were talking about this is Santa Cruz, one of the Gucciest, dopest mountain bike companies. They have just released an e-bike, so it was released last night. And you brought up something about this new rules around running shoes.
Yeah, so the IAAF, who govern the governing body of running and athletics, they put their rulings out on shoes, because we spoke about it in our sub 2 hour podcast about the shoes. Where do we go from here? Etc. There's another This Week in Sports that we talked about the new ASIC shoe, which analyzes your running gait. It's coming. It's here, right? Smart shoes, aid assisted shoes. So they were kind of forced to bring their hand on it. Like what are we going to run around in those? Do you remember those moon boots? Where they were did you have them in America? They were like this.
A trampoline around your shoe?
Yep.
Yeah.
That was exactly it, like mini tramps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those were sick. I always wanted them. But I can't imagine you'd run fast on those. But, maybe put a sneaker sole on the bottom and you'd be away.
And that's what we've done. Yeah, so they needed to say, let's just put a, like they did with bikes, right? They were getting so light, it was getting dangerous. Carbon was cracking and falling apart, disc brakes, whatever. It happens, right? So they ruled on it. And now we're here. It was just really interesting that they said, here's a ruling, 40 millimeters of cushioning, 1 carbon plate. They have to be out 4 months prior to the Olympics. Commercial, like retail stores are supposed to have them. No prototypes. And then the next day or within the next 3 days, Nike release their shoe that fits every single criteria and is now will be available well within the 4 month before the Olympics. You're like, hang on. Is it this, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
How do they have a shoe already that's production ready that fits the criteria of the IAAF? Who makes the rules? Oh, okay. All right. And every other company doesn't have one. All right. We'll figure it out. while you still have 4 months to put the shoe on the shelves. Yeah, not going to do it? Okay, then.
Oh, no. Well, I think that's good, though, to, like, so you know how Oscar Pistorius has those leaf spring,
yeah.
What's the word for them? Because his legs have been amputated, right? So he has prosthetics, the leaf spring prosthetics that he runs with.
Mm.
Actually, it gives him a mechanical advantage to store and return elastic energy as he's running.
Yeah, he's not the only one. He's just like the most iconic.
Sure,
it was like he transferred over to able-bodied athletics, I guess you'd say.
Right. And what the biomechanist found is that he does have an advantage because he is actually able to run faster with these enhanced leaf spring limbs. Prosthetics. So this is the direction that shoes are going. I think it's fair that we say, well, hold on. Maybe not everyone should be able to have shoes that are helping to propel them forward by a massive amount. So I think it's important to draw that line. I wouldn't want to be the person responsible for drawing that line because there'd be a lot to account for when you're making that demarcation.
Yeah, there's the have and the have-nots now. 1, are you sponsored by Nike? 2, can you afford Nike's new shoes? Like, the science is accepting now that this new next generation of the Nike shoe, beyond the 4%, which came out, the first Sub-2 project, is providing a mechanical advantage. The first one is like, okay, if you have good gait mechanics and you're going to fit this kind of biomechanical window or box, if you fit in here, the shoes will give you an advantage. Then the next generation is like, oh, okay, now almost everyone's getting at least 1%, maybe up to 8%. Now it's like, okay, everyone's going to get 2%. Like they've developed the carbon plate so well that maybe not everyone, but pretty much everyone is, and then some people, responders, if you want to call them that, but even non-responders are getting an advantage from these shoes over your traditional racing flat sand shoe. Yeah, so I don't know. I wouldn't want to be making them.
No, it's good to have the rules though. And it's really similar to the other side of this week in sports that we talk about with e-bikes. So
yeah, I'm really fascinated to see what is going to happen here. Like on it, because my vision, honestly, is that enduro mountain bikes, so where you do the stage racing and you got to ride around all day and do different stages, will become e-bikes.
That would be awesome. There are a lot of e-bike haters out there. And e-bikes...
There's a lot of haters for these shoes too.
Yeah. There's just a lot of haters in general. There's just haters everywhere. But e-bike haters crack me up because most of the people that hate e-bikes have never ridden an e-bike. Because I can guarantee you, if you've ever ridden an e-bike, you had a smile on your face the whole time. They are so fun. I really, 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 really want one. Just because they feel so awesome. And some people say it's cheating or whatever. Which it is if you're in a race and you're racing someone who doesn't have a motor. But if you're just out there for a good time, it's impossible to cheat because there are no rules. I just think that's so silly when people say that. And it just comes down to them being haters. Because they need to try an e-bike. I have an e-bike. I don't have an e-mountain bike, but I've ridden one. Loved it. I was sold within 5 seconds. I have an e-bike that I do my shopping with. I load it up with all my groceries. Gets me around town super easy. I think e-bikes are the future. And it has nothing to do with us developing an e-bike specific brake sensor. But, I think that would tie in really, really nicely for safety purposes. Just saying. Email me for more details. But e-bikes are 100% the future. And with Santa Cruz now coming out with their e-bike at the very, very, very tippy top of the market, we're talking 20k New Zealand dollars for the top model.
So what's that, about 2,000 US?
Yeah, something like that. It's pretty cheap. No, I think it's like almost 14,000 US dollars.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is a lot. You can get a Hyundai for that much. I'm pretty sure.
Hyundai.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, I'm not sure how much those are, but this isn't a really, really expensive, elite, high-end, dope e-bike. It probably doesn't ride any better than the other one, but what it means is that the people that have expendable income are now going to be buying these, and they're going to be ripping around on the trails on these bikes. And I think it'll have a trickle-down effect, and I think we'll see more e-bikes in the future. And I think e-bike racing is going to continue to evolve because now all the big brands are invested in e-bikes, and they had an e-bike world championships last year. I had an athlete that raced it, and what they ended up doing, it was just an XC race on e-bikes, and a race like that doesn't really represent the benefits of having an electric assist motor. I think the racing's going to really continue to evolve, and now that we have burly, long travel, super capable e-bikes from the dopest brands, I think that racing's going to continue to evolve, and I think you're right. It's going to be a lot like enduro, probably have, uphill technical stages and things like that, and I think it's going to really progress the sport.
Yeah, so observationally, living in Rotorua, one of the best mountain bike locations in the world, check out TripAdvisor. But it is, right? Like, we have Crankworks.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And there's just heaps of e-bikes.
The accessibility is second to none, and the e-bike makes it easier for everyone.
Observationally, that's what I've seen, right? And then, so my, wife's sister's husband, they run Pai Hair mountain bike rentals, shout out to them, up far north of New Zealand, Waitangi Mountain Bike Park. And when he's replacing his fleet, he's replacing more e-bikes. Because people don't want to hire the old acoustics. Like, it's just the way it is. You can have way more fun.
Yeah.
Like, he's selling it to them, he goes, well, yeah, it's more expensive, because, it just is. It's going to be more expensive for you to hire but you don't have to use the shuttle. You don't have to wait in a stinky bus line. Like,
they are stinky
and
lines.
to get dragged up the hill and your bike fall off the back. Like, there's just so many pros. And then what I'm interested to see, that's the enjoyment side of things, what happens with racing. Right? Like, where so the why I wanted to also talk about the shoes in this section was they ruled on the shoes. Okay. Now everyone can fit within these guidelines. Everyone can make their shoe. It's something that's going to biomechanically assist you to run faster, but you can only do it so far. Where do we go here? Like, where does it become a motorbike? Where does it become how much battery? Different brands work with different, motor and battery manufacturers. How much boost can you get? How much energy or kilowatt hours? I think that will be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
To see. Because when you are fixed, like with Nike, when you're fixed with a brand, you may be really incredibly restricted in your ability to race someone who works with a bigger bike company.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the future is bright, and I think the future is fun. So, if you haven't tried any cheater shoes or cheater bikes, go try one and see if you smile. That'll be the test.
Yeah, I haven't tried any cheater shoes. But when these ones come out, because they were so on the fence, it's like, oh, are you gonna, $400? Are you gonna get a benefit?
Pesos,
but now it's, no, I think so these new ones will be 400 US. That's, I think, the speculative, price, but hey, but now it's like, okay, we're all gonna get 2%. That's a bloody big improvement. I want to run faster. That's this week in sports that we talk about.
We're trying to figure out our topic for the week, and I think it's time for a review, because I looked back at our first podcast, and it's been 51 weeks or something like that since we started the podcast. And we started at the bottom. Like, our first podcast was horrible. For some reason, people are still listening to it. But it was bad. And I think actually we've come a long way. We're more organized. We know our audience better. We know what our audience wants, and we're able to give them what they want. We sound a lot better. We're probably not any cooler. I
convinced you to buy that microphone.
Yeah. We got the microphone. We have sound editing. Before, I don't think we really knew what we were doing, but we have some interesting content out there. And I think it'll be fun if we go back through all of our episodes and just reflect on, some of the funny things about them, some of the things that we wish we would have done differently, and just talk about them. So I think that'd be fun for this week.
Little behind the scenes of podcasting. Yeah, what I find really interesting is that, people are still listening. Episode 1, cross-training for endurance athletes. 36 minutes.
Oh, that was pretty short.
Yeah. Because after that, we went for an hour and you're like, that's too long, no one's going to listen to us.
Yeah. I was leaning towards like 15 minutes and you're like, no, it has to be at least an hour. And then we met in the middle for the first one, which was 36 minutes.
Yeah, well, because we were running them also as Facebook Live.
Oh.
We ran them live. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
We ran like live, just straight off the bat. No editing, nothing. Like, record it, put it up.
And then we took the sound, you took the sound from the Facebook Live video, and that became the podcast.
Yeah.
We would have gone live for quite a few episodes, actually.
Yeah, and I was also like cutting the videos up, uploading them to YouTube, uploading the segments, writing the captions, which took so long. It was quite popular, and then I was getting a bit burnt out. It was taking up a lot of time, and so we stopped doing it, and then it didn't really affect the listeners or anything.
No,
so
our listenership actually went up, but our Facebook Live views went down because we weren't doing it anymore. But I think that's okay. But
yeah,
what did we talk about for what's it called? Cross training for endurance
athletes. Yeah,
endurance athletes. Okay, our titles have come a long way, but I don't even know what we would have said.
Yeah, no, I think for 2020, I already said someone messaged me and was like, "Oh, you did one on low carb, episode 2, wasn't it? I need to tell my friend who wants to do low carb." And I was like, episode 2? Oh, I'm going to have to redo that.
This is actually our plan. We're going to go back to our more popular old ones and just totally redo them. Because we can do a much better job. Yeah,
and it was a bit touch and go there for a while because we got, the first couple we only had about 20 or 30 downloads. And obviously, it's like with anything, you put it out there and you just look in the first day or two. Yeah. You're like, okay, shit, I thought I would have got 10,000.
Why didn't this go viral, this cross-training for endurance athletes?
Yeah.
Our very first podcast episode. Isn't that how it works? Things go viral right away when you do a horrible job? I wish.
Yeah, but then we did start to cut our teeth, find our straps, get into it. Focus more on the podcasting than the Facebook Live and the trying to get it out there.
That did take a while though, so with episode 2, which is low carb endurance, the title needs a bit help. So, when we redo this one, we'll name it something else. Low carbohydrate, something better than low carbohydrate endurance. But that's actually an interesting topic, and people still love to talk about low carbohydrate diets.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be, I said I'd tell my mate I'd do it in February, so we have to do it in a couple of weeks.
February is running out quick. So.
But we're not just going to go through every single one individually and talk about it, are we? Because we have 43. So Why don't you go through like your favorite?
Okay. I was thinking about going through all of them because I have a few favorites really. But Riding with Power, I think that one could use redoing. But Training for XC Mountain Biking, episode 5, I think we said a lot of good things in there because you have a really good understanding of training for cross-country mountain biking. I love talking about pacing. I work with a lot of XC athletes, and I think there's a lot of myths as far as training goes. I think that was a pretty cool episode, and one that I'd like to retouch on without being under pressure of Facebook Live.
Yeah, and now the amount of feedback you guys have given us, and shout out if you've been listening from the start.
Oh,
it's awesome.
That's tough. Good on you. We should reward everyone who's listened to every episode.
Yeah, thanks, Mum.
And thanks, Mom.
No, she hasn't. She did. Your dad gave up, eh?
Yeah.
Remember, you're like, oh, did you like their last? Oh, actually, I'm not sure if I've listened to that.
I was like, Dad, have you even seen our new podcast logo? It's pretty sweet. He's like, oh, I haven't listened for a while. I was like, well, we had that new logo for like 9 weeks now. It's like, oh, I'll have to check it out again. He didn't.
Yeah, one thing, so episode 4, Training for Triathlon, that's almost the least successful one, which is so surprising, but it shows our audience. Obviously, people aren't keen on triathlon anymore. Thought that was hot topic. I guess a lot of podcasts on triathlon.
Yeah. Is this the one, Training for Triathlon, where I told my triathlon story?
Yeah, how is that not popular?
That one, the video so you'll have to check out the episode or find the video, but I talked about how I did my first triathlon. I was really confident in how I'd perform. But I was not a swimmer, so I lined up for the swim in my bibs, and they filled with water, obviously, and I had to be rescued from the swim. And yeah, because I thought I was gonna die. People were swimming over top of me, and so what you did is you chopped up a video of me telling that story because we did it on Facebook Live, and I think that video had people got a lot of kicks out of that, and people still hit me up about my triathlon story. It wasn't my finest moment, but
I put it. It's the featured video on my Facebook page, on the Performance Vantage Facebook page.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's the thing. It said five views.
It's not even embarrassing.
Nah, it said about. Yeah, so about 1,000 views on your video, Matt. It's 1,000 people laughing at you.
I think it was all 5 different people watching multiple times.
Yeah, no, I showed a lot of people. I thought it was hilarious.
Do you have a favorite episode?
I really enjoyed talking to Tom Evans last week. I thought that was pretty incredible. Just he runs over 200 Ks a week plus riding his bike for 5+ hours.
No, I haven't listened to that one. I wasn't there. So.
Nah, maybe that's why I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah, that's true. You could be your own co-host.
Yeah, it felt a bit awkward actually. Just doing the whole intro and everything.
You're welcome, William, to the Performance Advantage podcast. Thanks for having me. Just talking to yourself.
Oh, man. Nah, I didn't do that.
That one that we did 2 weeks ago, the alcohol and sports performance one, that's been our most popular one, hasn't it?
Nah, run walk.
Oh, run walk. Run walk. I'm surprised you didn't do the run walk at your race, in the Ultra.
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh.
But I didn't make a thing about it because it's, because of the trail stuff, it's pretty easy to integrate walking within the specific, just high inclines and super technical parts of the trail.
Yeah.
To try and fix it like I did for the 100K I did in September, which is pretty much dead flat along the rail trail. There's no other kind of parts of the course that are going to break up your rhythm. And same with a marathon, you it's very constant. So you need to break that rhythm up where the real benefit comes from the run walk. But then due to the like rolling hills and, technical inclines and everything like that, you just end up having to walk certain parts.
I see. So you just have to run walk.
Well, you should.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, like, some people try not to initially, and then you just end up walking.
Yeah. Do you think so we talked about running with power, so running with a power meter in episode 10. Do you think there have been, at that time, and I guess still, running with a power meter was pretty new technology? Like, not super well accepted. So do you think much has changed? Because that was in April. So 10 months ago. Has much changed since then?
No. Like, there's been a lot stride, specifically. You know, we had Evan on. I enjoyed that. He was a talker, for sure.
Shout out, Evan.
Shout out, Evan, on episode 22. You know, the team there have been really working hard at trying to develop the understanding of the technology. Exactly like what you're doing. And I talked to you about it with the brake power meter. You can have this amazing piece of equipment, which a running power meter is. People put it on and they go, now what?
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
And so someone like me, highly like educated and well read in the area of sports physiology and like the sort of mathematics of running with power, I understand it. But
because it's your job, right?
It is. Yeah. People don't have access to, you know, a coach who has those expertise or even resources available to them. And then people themselves, like, they don't maybe know where to look for those resources or have the time to understand even just like the underlying physiology and fundamentals of it. So that's what they were working really hard to make that more simplistic. So it's like, and it's coming. It is coming along. Like, I've had a few more athletes purchase them and come and talk to me about how to integrate it into their training. But it's not like the whole field is wearing them over the weekend, which I think
they should be, because they're so cheap. They don't actually cost
not that cheap.
Much. How much are they?
270 US.
Yeah, I mean, that's like not that many bars of chocolate, you know, to put in.
It's like really good pair of shoes.
Yeah, I don't think that's a huge investment for your main hobby.
But it is when you have no idea what it does.
Yeah, yes. That 100% right. And that's great that they're trying to work through that. And I know how tough that is to try and develop software that tells you what to do. It is super difficult. I guess that takes us to the episode that we did before, the running with power, which is the brake power meter one. But I think, like, once Stride or another company really dials in how to use the information, like, then you have your phone's telling you then what to do in your run. And that's really, really valuable. That is well worth $250. Maybe a little less job security for us coaches, but it'll lead to better runners, more runners that have a greater understanding of what they're doing with their bodies. Yeah, there's, I'm going to incorporate a lot of it on my YouTube channel about how and why I use power, to help people. And there'll be more people like that as well. There already is, like, the Global Triathlon Network and stuff that, like, they're doing those stories, but they're often very much like, this is what it does. Not really like, this is how I use it day to day. This is how I use it with athletes. This is how I use it for pacing. This is where it's wrong. And there are some big holes in running with power currently. And one of the biggest ones is that it is a standalone device
And so they have to work within the confines of Garmin, Sunto, Wahoo, whoever you have on your wrist. They have to try and fit those boxes. And like you're going, it's exactly the same as you, Matt. Like, right? Like, you can only send so much information, and then Garmin, they have to do with it what they please. Like, so if they're not willing to run your algorithm, it's not going to work. And then you have, not everyone uses Training Peaks or a higher level of analytical training software, and Strava doesn't support running power. So that's like a pretty big black mark against buying one.
Yeah.
Because most people just use Strava for their analytics. Like, how fast did I run?
For everything.
What were my splits?
For life.
For everything.
Yeah.
So they've got some hurdles. They got some big hurdles.
Yeah. It'll take some time
to get through.
Because which episode did we do power meters? Cycling power meters. We talked about how when they first started, no one was using them, and this was over 20 years ago. So,
episode 3.
Ooh, we're gonna have to redo that one. Yikes! So the sound would be bad. You can listen to it because there's probably some good content, but we're definitely gonna redo that. But 20 years ago, no one was using power meters. Not even the pros. Like, the pros were using them sometimes on some of their bikes. Maybe more than 20 years ago. Forget when I got my first one, but they've come a long way now, and there would be few cyclists that don't have the power meter.
The cost is low, the accessibility. Again, the head units, they all incorporate the training software. Especially Strava, they do a power curve. They let you know what your FTP or critical power is. Like, it's just, and then they have all these, everyone kind of, like, most coaches who work with people who ride bikes understand percentage of FTP.
Yeah.
Right? They just, okay, well, you're not going to be able to go for 100% of FTP for 9 hours. You can't. It doesn't happen like that. They don't even need to know the understanding physiology. That they can just say, you can work at 70%.
Yeah.
They know that, right? And then intervals where, riding used to be, go hard for 5 minutes. Heart rate doesn't catch up in time. Speed, you're into a headwind, you're going up a hill. It's like, I have no idea what's going on. Now it's like, okay, I know a 5-minute interval needs to be 110 to 120% of FTP. Do that. And then I can check it. And then, so like, they're at that level of integration and understanding.
Yeah. I think one of the things that helps is Zwift. Right? Because Zwift's
smart trainers?
Yeah, smart trainers in general. Because, like what we do when we build a cycling workout, we can just build it so it links up with your smart trainer. We prescribe you the level of power that you should be holding based on your functional threshold power, based on your aerobic ability. And when you start an interval on a smart trainer, it sets you at the power that you're supposed to be at. So then you're looking at the screen and you see what the power is, you know the number, and you know kind of what it represents for you, and then you know the feeling in your leg. So then when you get out there and you're actually riding, you're able to link in the feeling in your legs and your breathing, things like that, to the actual effort that you're putting out. And maybe then you start to think, well, actually, maybe my speed doesn't matter because I know what the feeling represents and around about what my power should be. And I think it makes it that much easier then to get a power meter and make sense of it.
Yeah. Retroactively, like looking back on an event, it's really good. It's so good. Even like running with power, where I can do a trail event and I can do a road event and I can go, oh wow, I actually ran at a higher power output, although I did a trail event, so my speed was way slower. That's equivalent, though, that power level is like equivalent to like just over 3-minute Ks. But I was running 4-minute Ks because I was running up a hill. It's like, and then also, if depends on how the race starts and everything, you're like, well, you did your best ever power output, even though you might not have been going that fast and you may have been 10th, over the first 5 minutes. You're like, well, that's probably why
You blew up.
things didn't work out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We still see that a lot. But I think one of the things that this data does is it gives you a lot of confidence in what you're doing, and being able to look back on what you did really helps you to come to terms with the result, because you're able to then understand why you got the result that you got. Helps training as well.
Yeah, and that's where the brake power meter fits in, right?
Yeah. We 100% need to do this one again. So what episode was it? Episode 9. So we're still talking. I had headphones that I was talking into. It's the cheap headphones that came with my phone. And you were recording it on your computer. So it sounds horrible. And so much has happened since April. It's crazy. It's like 10 months ago. And at that time, I hadn't dialed in any automatic coaching. And now I have automatic coaching. So I can analyze your braking and tell you what to do. Which we didn't talk about that at all. Because it wasn't possible then. And that's taken so much time to get dialed in. There's so much to talk about behind that. I could probably talk for 6 years about it. Like all day, every day. Wouldn't even sleep or eat. I'd just drink coffees and talk about braking. But I still love it as much as I did then. And we've just come so far. And we definitely need to redo the episode. So with proper sound and real information.
What was your favorite episode or favorite interview?
Favorite interview. It's so hard because we have so freaking many ones. I liked it when we were like doing the 5 W's. Do you remember when we did the carbohydrate episode and we did the 5 W's? It was who, what, where, when, why, and how.
Yeah.
The 6 ones that we trained. So that's why we called it 5 W's. I thought that was really cool because we're able to stay really organized. And we're like, okay, it was almost like writing a story and talking about this. It was like a book on tape.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. I liked that.
Yeah.
I liked doing it that way. But, yeah, I think
that's what, that was why we started it really, to help like educate the endurance sports masses on practical applications of sports science. Like we didn't want to get, into the nitty gritty of like, oh, this study didn't,
Please
do this.
No. Please no. That would have been the worst thing for us to do as scientists, to always just talk about science, because no one cares. Right?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's, one I enjoy, like How to Train with Heart Rate, Everything You Want to Know, episode 29. Thought that would have been more popular.
Only 1 million downloads. That's crazy. That Robert Stannard one was pretty good, and we caught up with him like just as he was getting into his base training, or just as he was like starting to train. And after we talked to him, I started following him on Strava because I started using Strava. We do have that Strava episode too, where I talk about how I
enjoyed that one. I enjoyed
that. Was probably our best one.
That was so much fun.
I've been following Robert on Strava, and so far this year we're like 6 weeks into the year or something like that. He's already done like 5,000 Ks of riding.
Yeah.
Just crazy. Just shows what it takes to be at that tippy top.
That's what I really enjoyed. Like, you listen to him and then you listen to Tom Evans, who are like their job is to be an athlete. It's a lot different to even talking to Carl Reed or Caleb, Seamus, to some extent. And you go, oh wow, okay, well these guys are the best in the world, not like locally or anything, and they are paid to not do anything else. Like that's the way I kind of see it. Like Tom talks about how important rest is, and he breaks down like running 200 Ks a week is not that much when you run for, especially the speeds he runs at. You run for 2 hours and then you have a break and then you go do some stretching, and then in the afternoon you do another hour and a half, and you've done for him like 40 Ks in a day. Oh, that actually doesn't sound that ridiculous. It's like a 2 hour and a 1.5 hour. But then he's able to do that every single day, week in and week out. I can't do that yet. And I get beaten by him by 2 hours, you know, and even he had an exceptional race, but even like, so the next, I would have considered them his competitors. They get beaten by 40 minutes and so they're about an hour to an hour 20 ahead of me. That's kind of where I thought I would be overall, like, but obviously Tom has an exceptional race and kicks my ass. But it shows like there's these levels. Like I can run 120 to 110 to 140 Ks a week, but then I break down and then I got to rest. Like I can only do that a couple times within a block. And I have, you know, I'm developing the Endurance Training Hub, Performance Advantage, YouTube, family life, like business, podcast. Like there's a lot going on that takes away or doesn't, I don't know, whatever you want to look at it. I'm just not willing to like live that life. Right?
Yeah. Well, it's impossible unless you're getting income from your sport, right? Because there would be no way to live. Right? So it's like a kind of a push-pull thing where he's at that level, so he's able to bring in money, so he can afford to not do all these other things because he needs to make money, because he is making money by doing his training and racing.
But it's hard, you know, like when I went to Australia, I've talked about one of the podcasts, and I'd saved up enough to like live comfortably for a few months. Well, not comfortably, but I could live for a few months without working. And, I just trained, and I was like, I trained a lot. That's when, the overtraining episode, listen to that. That was, we talked about our overtraining. So, you know, I'm running 140 Ks, I'm riding 10 hours, swimming 10 hours, and sleeping and biking around for commuting. And I was like, is this it? Like, is this it? Like, this is fun, but it's also, I can't even use my brain. I'm so fried all the time.
Mm.
Like, we were just watching the in-betweeners and training, and that was about it, you know, because you got to get ready for your next session. I'm training, like for triathlon, I was training 3 times a day. You know, at least one session was a couple hours, and the other ones would be an hour to 2 hours, sometimes longer. And you're literally just like doing washing and getting ready and eating. And that was actually how I started my PhD, because I was doing research because I was bored. And then I was like, yeah, this isn't for me. So yeah, it requires like a special person as well that's totally driven to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And we talked to some pros like Seamus Powell. So he was racing on some big mountain bike teams, Giant Factory team he was on, and he talked about how tough it was, even though he was a national champion, how tough it was to get by.
Do you remember my expression during that whole interview?
I'm pretty sure you didn't say anything the whole time because you were just so dumbfounded at like what he was saying. You couldn't believe it.
He like told us how much he was earning. He like told us what was shit.
I'm pretty sure he shouldn't have said most of those things, but he's back on a pro team this year. You know, he's loving it. It's training hard. But one of the things that he's done this year, I don't think he'd mind me saying, is he struck a really nice balance between training, being a professional athlete, and then also holding a job. Because he's really focused on his balance now. And he talked about how when he was younger, a racer and trying to make it, how he didn't really have a good balance, and he maybe wished that he did. But everything comes at a cost, right? Because, you know, him working now, having a job, and, you know, he also has a salary from his team. By him having a better life balance, he's also taking a little bit away from his availability to rest, right? And we know how important rest is. But yeah, that was a pretty good episode with Seamus. He's real keen to come on for another episode and probably blow people's minds and talk about things that he shouldn't be talking about. So maybe we should tee that up.
Yeah, we definitely will. If we need to get some good results out of him first, and then and then we'll be like, yeah, American champion opens up.
Yeah, well, you can't take away his 5 national titles, so we could probably do that whenever.
Yeah. That the professional athlete thing, that's a tough one. Yeah, like, it's where people look when they look for training. You know, they go, oh, what is, like, everyone loves to follow people like Tom stuff on Strava. Go, oh wow, that's, I need to do a midweek 40k tempo run at like just over 3-minute Ks. Like, well, we have families, like we have jobs and stress, and like you just need to. It's like no one ever wants to hear that they focus on rest.
No. Yep. That's so.
What's funny. The most important part about being a pro? The fact that I get to keep my feet up, like that. I can take a 20-minute shower, like all of these things. I can travel to, like, Tom came over here 3 weeks before the race. Who's going to be able to do that? By himself, in an Airbnb, solo little bachelor pad he had, out of town even. He didn't want to be in town. Like, yeah, people don't have those luxuries.
Yeah. The whole rest thing, did we do an episode on resting?
Overtraining.
Okay. We probably talked about resting there. I think we try and, because we know how important it is, and we know how important it is to our athletes, I think we try and talk about it quite a lot, don't we? Resting.
Yeah, training easy and resting. It's like just being able to do those things.
Yeah. Remember, we were talking about those two things so much that we started to get worried that our audience would think that we didn't believe in intervals. That was a big worry of mine. I was like, we should probably talk about our favorite intervals. Which we did in episode 37.
Episode 37, yeah. Top 10 gifts for runners just before Christmas.
Yeah. We still need to do the top 10 gifts for mountain bikers, where you pick a list of all these silly gimmick gifts and I just shoot you down and saying how that's not a good list or something like that.
Okay, well, later in the year for your 40th birthday, we'll have the things you can buy Matt.
Yeah. Nothing, please. Just maybe some good food.
Once Matt turned 30, he started wearing all black for his birthdays.
Yeah, I still do. Dress like you're going to a funeral. Like Johnny Cash. We did this episode 28, so this one's actually very relevant for today. Skills coaching. FTW, which I'm assuming you wrote this one, means for the win.
You wrote that one. That was when you said my title sucked.
Well, I remember saying that, but I don't remember writing this title. There was a certain point where we started to get much better with the titles. We started to collaborate a bit more on those. But, okay, so I wrote this one anyway, and it's about Harlan Price. So he's a skills coach. That one ended up going 85 minutes, and then we talked for another 2 hours after the episode, talking so much about skills training for mountain biking. And Harlan's actually coming to visit me today. How relevant is that?
I mean, it's as relevant as you want to. You're looking back on things, so it's like...
Yeah. Well, there you go. That is so relevant to me right now. So Harlan's coming to test out the brake power meter. He was doing some coaching in Australia. So the Professional Mountain Biker Instructors Association sent him to Australia to do coaching for a couple weeks. And now he's going to come to New Zealand, test out the brake power meter. We're going to go riding. We're going to go fishing. We're going to have some fun. And he's going to teach me about what I need to look for in the braking. It's going to be really, really exciting, I think.
Cool. All right. What do we have planned for this year then?
Well,
more giveaways, Matt. I'm talking to 2 potential sponsors.
Awesome.
I was hoping to have them confirmed before the show, but it's the way of the world. Emails. People check them when they want to.
Yeah. But you know how emails go. You get it, and then you're like, yeah, I need to respond to that. And then you think about that every day for like 2 weeks, and then you finally do it. And it takes 2 minutes. And it's done. That's how emails go. But that's exciting to have people that are interested in supporting this podcast. That's really exciting.
So, Matt, will 2020 be the year of the commercialized brake power meter?
Yep. 100%. 100%.
100%.
Yeah. Yes. It will. Yeah.
You're just like, how much am I allowed to say?
Yeah. Yeah. It's tricky when you put things into the public domain. So I always err on just saying pretty much nothing. So, but yeah.
What about your racing?
What about my racing? I tell you what I really want to do, and something that's really exciting to me is e-bike racing. Because I see how fun they are, and I see how fast they are, and I see how it's the future. And it's definitely something that I really want to get into. I just need an e-bike. And it's not like because I want to just feel fast because I know it has a motor and stuff like that. Because if you want to go really, really fast, I think you obviously need to train really hard. So for me, I think that's what it would take is me to have an e-bike, and I would get into e-bike racing and kind of, I'd like to be at the kind of help to pioneer where it goes a little bit and just have a really good understanding, because I do really, really believe that's the future.
All right.
So that's what
That's
I
pretty
want.
cool.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. How about you?
Continuing to build my YouTube channel. So my mission is educate and inspire. Part of the reason for starting the podcast and coaching and stuff. And what I really, really want to do, it won't happen in the near future, but is run the length of New Zealand on the Tarawera Trail.
Wow.
So there's a trail that spans the length of New Zealand. I bought the book on the trail and have looked it up and have wanted to do this for the longest time. So I think with the podcast and the YouTube, if I can get the following up, I can start to negotiate with some support around trying to facilitate how that would work, how that would look, and if we did a documentary or something along those lines. So yeah, I want to try and work on that, but otherwise continue to work with athletes, put out cool content, and be a dad, keep training. I'll look to do another ultra. I'll do a marathon and another ultra in the end of the year, see what happens there. Continuing to train, and yeah, that's me.
Sweet.
All right, Matt, that'll do us. That'll do us.
Yeah, that's good. It's good to reflect sometimes to see how far we've come. I think it's good to do that. So, look out for some episodes being redone and enhanced, done better.
Hit us up if you got anything you want us to discuss. All right, Matt. You have a great week.
No, you have a great week.
Thanks, Matt. I will. All right, so that does us for episode 44 of the Performance Advantage podcast. As always, massive shout out to our sponsors, smartmtbtraining.com and theendurancetraininghub.com. Sign up now to get some coaching, training plans for mountain biking and running, triathlon, and everything endurance based. Catch you next week, everyone.